Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor. And you know, I was talking about travel baseball earlier this week. My son's more or less now like a pitcher only. What's always driven me crazy about the travel baseball thing is once your son becomes a pitcher only, you would think that then you could just show up to the games where he's going to pitch, or go to the games until he does pitch, and then after that, for the weekend, he doesn't have to come back. Well, this weekend was the first time where they were like, okay, he's done pitching, so he doesn't have to come to the games tomorrow. This is a perfect world right here for me. This is what I like. I'm hoping that it works that way going forward too. We shall see. Ray Fuentes from Link2 had put this out. This is Joe Endoso, perspective on Ripple's acquisition of Fortress Trust and its long-term bullish impact to XRP. Listen to this. I see no negative impact on XRP. In fact, I think it will be positive impact longer term. My reasoning, as more financial institutions adopt RippleNet and utilize ODL, they'll need to decide whether to hold XRP temporarily, only for as long as necessary to clear and settle cross-border, cross-currency transaction on the XRP ledger, or more permanently because the continual flow of such transactions has reached the scale where constantly buying and selling XRP as a temporary holding creates a huge cost overheads, trading fees, fiat to crypto, fiat conversion fees, etc., plus spot market risk inherent in that churn. In order for those institutions to go the other direction and to opt to hold XRP more permanently, they'll need robust institutional grade custody solutions. That's one important reason why Ripple is moving to embed custody into their product mix today, I believe. But in this scenario, where lots of institutions choose to hold XRP more permanently, there will be secular and increasing demand for XRP by institutions. That will have two positive effects on XRP price: less volatility because retail speculative demand gets drowned out by more stable utility demand from institutions, and institutional demand pressure towards the upside. I like the sound of those things. Now, I have this feeling, folks, that we're headed into IPO season maybe for some of this crypto type stuff. I wanted to, the thing, when you go IPO, you do an IPO roadshow, which is 2 or 3 weeks. I wanted to show you, for those of you that have never seen this, this is the CEO or the chief operating officer of Yelp back in 2014. And this is just a video I found where he's describing what's involved, what it's all about to have an IPO roadshow. Watch this. I'm just going to play you the first couple of minutes.
The Roadshow. Anybody familiar with the Roadshow already? Yeah, heard of the Roadshow? It's a roadshow. It's a 2 or 3 week marketing period. This is the time where you as a management team get the honor of going and flying around the country to meet groups of investors, sometimes in large settings of groups this size or larger, and sometimes individually with 2 or 3 or 4 investors who tend to be large pension funds and control a lot of money. And so you basically have this 2 or 3 week period where you're going around meeting with investors. And the really funny thing about this, that's not so fun in the moment, but funny to talk about, is you have to say exactly the same thing in every one of those meetings. So you might ask yourself in the day of video, why is it a good idea to travel all around the company meeting with people individually saying exactly the same thing? I don't have an answer to that question, but it's just how the process works. And so we did it and we played along. And there were certainly some entertaining parts of that, such as flying around on a private jet for the first time in my life. So that was kind of cool for at least the first day, and then that got old quickly, just like everything else. And there was a couple memorable moments where like the CNBC crew was camped out trying to take footage of us outside of a hotel in New York. So we got to go in a secret elevator through like a department store. And there was a secret elevator. We went through a kitchen in order to like appear on stage at this event. So that was kind of memorable. Mostly, I would tell you, it's all a blur because I was in a bunch of different cities giving exactly the same answers to exactly the same questions over and over. And then what's happening all through during this process, and okay, so maybe we should take a step back. Anybody have an idea why are we doing all these investor meetings? No. Anyone? Go, sorry.
Sell the shares.
To sell the shares, right. Because basically we want, the whole idea with the process, right, is we're creating these shares. In our case, I think it was 7 million shares we were creating. And we're trying to sell them to these large investors who then give us money. And that's the price that then gets set on your shares so that anybody else who holds your shares, your investors and whatnot, can buy and sell those freely in the public markets.
So that's pretty much what those roadshows are. And that's really linked to is private equity for accredited investors. And that's ultimately when you're and linked to is one of my sponsors, but that's ultimately what you're looking at here is you're buying a lot of these shares for an eventual exit, the IPO being one of the exit options. It could be acquired or have a merger or whatever, but I think most people are wanting an IPO eventually. I think Ripple definitely will probably do will do an IPO at some point. Who knows? This could happen sooner rather than later. I think companies like iTrustCapital, who knows? They could head for one. Link to itself could head for one. We don't know. But this is what it's all about. For those of you that were around during the .com boom and bust, that was what it was all about, is go public, cash out, stock options. So check this out. This was from CoinDesk. Altcoins start the week in the red with Ripple's XRP the worst affected, while India, and anyway, they say Ripple's XRP. And I said, when's the last time you saw CoinDesk write Vitalik's Buterin's Ethereum or Joseph Lubin's Ethereum? You didn't, because these people are paid narrative carriers for Bitcoin and Ethereum. These things are intentional. I've watched it for years, folks. It's all intentional to try to present XRP as this centralized thing and present those as they're not. When the dirty little secret is the only difference. But look, Ripple has been completely transparent. You remember the Brad Garlinghouse Joseph Lubin video. Joseph Lubin practices internal transparency, whatever that is. And so they haven't been transparent at all. And so all these people point at Ripple and say, oh, you're centralized. See, you own all this XRP. Then Brad Garlinghouse says, wait a minute, how much do you own? What are you selling? Oh, we can't show that. We practice internal transparency. And so they have not been accused of anything because they're not showing it. You see how this works? Wait a minute. Here's another feature that they do. They want to make sure everybody knows XRP has dropped more than anything over the past 24 hours. Well, that's not how I'm looking at it. In fact, I said, please stay here while I wait for my transfer to iTrustCapital account. Pretty please. I actually, in my iTrustCapital account, Bitcoin came down a lot. I decided that I was going to get myself to 1 Bitcoin in my iTrustCapital account. I think I'm about 80% of the way there, just because not because I am some big believer in Bitcoin, but because Bitcoin has all the negatives that I've said 1,000 times on this channel. But that doesn't mean that I don't think it'll go up on the announcement of a Bitcoin ETF. I do think it will. Here's Brian Armstrong from Coinbase. Listen to what he says.
When does regulation come? What does that even look like?
Well, it's already happening in the world writ large. I mentioned, Europe, the UK, Australia, Canada, Brazil. These regions, UAE, have all been actually very forward-thinking. 83% of the G20 countries now have this crypto legislation either already in place or in progress. It's really, sorry, I don't know if you're asking just about the US, but in the US, I think it'll happen.
In the US?
Yeah, it'll happen in one of a few ways. So one way is the courts. The courts can be the one to provide the clarity regardless of the outcome of the case. Creating case law is a way to get there if the regulators aren't going to provide it. Another way to do it is through Congress, right? Congress is very engaged in this now, passing, looking at this FIT 21 bill that's which just got bipartisan approval in the House. The stablecoin market structure bill also got bipartisan approval in the House. So we'll see how that makes its way through the Senate and the executive branch. The CFTC could step up and assert more authority. I also think, there's a possibility we'll just get a different SEC chair in 2024 or beyond. So
he invokes.
We'll try all these things in parallel.
He wants Gary Gensler gone. I think this Senator Bill Haggerty is no fan of the choke point 2.0 either.
About Gary Gensler's crackdown that's paving the way for a central bank digital currency. Look, I think he's trying to strangle crypto through the courts. What's your take?
I think you're exactly right. And we're seeing it unfold through the regulators' eyes. They're using the FDIC and the Federal Reserve supervisors to essentially execute Operation Choke Point 2.0. This time the targeted industry is the cryptocurrency industry. They're creating all types of uncertainty. Gensler is using the opportunity to enforce via litigation, to regulate via enforcement. And this is creating tremendous uncertainty. What they're going to do, and this may be their aim, is to push all of the innovation associated with cryptocurrency and the blockchain offshore. They're paving the way for a central bank digital currency, and you have to look no further than Communist China to see what they're doing with the digital yuan, to see the danger in this. Communist China can use the digital yuan to determine what you can buy, what you can't buy,
exactly,
where your currency is good, where you can't spend it, where you can, and they're pushing that out on an international basis right now. We need to be very concerned about these.
All right. And then we've got this from the official Cool Guy of the Digital Asset Investor channel. This is a Jim Willie clip on XRP. Listen to this.
Jim, before we go, let's get into XRP, a fan favorite. Again, Cliff, in this last video, he's talking about in his old data sets that we would be entering this period of time where a lot of the altcoins would die. He specifically pointed out XRP in this video and said that basically the only client of XRP is the central banking model as maybe an alternative to SWIFT. And if the central bank model dies, which is a prediction here on the board with everything that's happening now, perhaps so too does XRP. How do you see XRP maybe coming out of troubled water in the next couple of months with the SEC lawsuit? Or is there a play to be made here where the governments are going to legislate around the CBDCs, which could pump up XRP until such time as those are rejected by the population? Jim Sinclair was saying that there would be 3 resets offered to the population, all of them rejected, until we eventually got into this sound money, organic economy for humans. What are your thoughts on XRP? How does that trade moving forward?
I think it's a very thin and weak argument to say that if XRP is largely owned by the bankers, therefore it's corrupt. How do you have a bridge created from the old to the new without a connection to the old?
That's a good point.
Therefore, you've got to have some handshakes. You've got to have some bridge on-ramps from the old system onto the bridge. Now, where we go is a little bit unclear, undefined, and murky. I believe the central bankers are going to be up against the wall with some very difficult decisions. They're going to face the prospect of having a central bank digital currency, a CBDC that violates the transparency requirement and violates the decentralized requirement. That's what they want. They want to violate those 2 requirements to continue their merry way with illicit systems, fraudulent systems.
Jim,
that's interesting. Okay, check this out. A Bitcoin transaction confirmed today paid a fee worth over $500,000 or 19 Bitcoin. What in the world's going on, folks? What is that? And what is this? I said, does anybody really believe that BlackRock is going to do a Bitcoin ETF without knowing the identity of Satoshi, who holds more Bitcoin than any individual or company? Does anybody believe that? So that this rogue nation potentially could tank all of BlackRock's investors' money that they've put in this ETF? There's no way, folks. This is what children would believe, not adults, okay? That's why we've always been the adults in the room. But David Marcus is here. Remember, David Marcus was the president of PayPal, who announced in 2013 that they were going to work on PayPal Galactic. It was going to be an intergalactic currency, just like what Greg Kidd said XRP is. Then he leaves PayPal. He later pops up and starts the Libra token when he's working for Facebook, which then became Diem, and then they shut down. And now he's working on the Lightning Network.
So we were just saying the state of fintech and the state of payments and where we really are. You're working on a new project. I shouldn't even say a new project, but a project around.
And keep in mind, these are the same people, CNBC, that won't talk about XRP. All they'll talk about is Bitcoin and Ethereum. And now they're propping this guy up to talk about this.
Lightning Network, which is aimed at basically taking Bitcoin. You can explain it better than I can. Effectively, you take it off chain and then put it back on chain to make these transactions faster.
Yes, actually what we're trying to do is turn Bitcoin into a real payment, global payment network, because we have many tourists walking right outside of the studio right now. If you were to stop one of them and wanting to communicate with them, you could ask them for an email address and you can email them easily the next minute. You could text them, you could add them to a group video chat, you can do all of these things. But if you were to send them money, if they were not a US citizen here in the US using one of the same fintech apps you're using, then you wouldn't be able to do that. And so we're still in the fax era of global payments, and that's what we're attempting to solve.
Right.
Actually, we're not, David. XRP has already solved that. They solved it in 2012-13 when they decided to improve on the problems with Bitcoin. What is your agenda, David? I don't get it. Sam Bankman-Fried's lawyers request pre-trial release, citing poor internet access. Folks, this is just hilarious. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that I don't know if him and his generation is ready for all the things that are coming their way in life, because life is not easy. And I don't think these kind of kids are equipped for life, and they're certainly not equipped to raise kids. Unbelievable. Thanks for listening.